Hey, I'm Bill Gross. Welcome to my weekly real estate market update. The city of Los Angeles has now started to put in place some of the key parts of its rebuilding plan. Unfortunately, they're making the same mistakes that led to the disaster, the fires, and we'll get into those details right after we take a look at the overall market. Let's start off with the market, and there's always two parts. There's supply and demand. Demand would be buyers and interest rates. Supply would be inventory. On the buyer side, on the demand side, interest rates just dropped below 7%, so a key psychological number. Overall, rates are about where they've been in the middle of last year or so, and certainly strong enough for demand. And in Los Angeles, of course, we have increasing demand because of the lack of housing. But nationally, rates seem fairly stable despite the drama of all the political news, and have retreated from the increase recently. So below 7 is a good spot to go. And certainly the market is such that there's plenty of buyers at those rates to buy the houses that are going to be in the market in the foreseeable future. And how can I say that? Well, the inventory still is at record lows. You'll see that in the month of January, oops, we lost our spot there. A month of January, not why we went to the smaller screen, but anyhow, traditionally, market turns around February, March. So we're still on track for the normal seasonal market. Inventory levels are above the last couple of years, below 2020 COVID, but the lowest all-time on record still. So even if inventory dramatically rises, we're going to find that unless they go up even more than they were in 2019 and 18, we cannot see home prices dropping nationally. Now, every market is a little different. Los Angeles obviously has become a tighter market with the fires. We'll talk about that just in a second. Specifically in Los Angeles, one of the services I love to use is Altos Research, and they give kind of an overall market picture after looking at all the statistics. And their market action index just went up to 38. It had been 37 and 36 back in January. It had been moving up a little bit seasonally, 36.9. But 38 is headed back towards the seller's market of the pandemic periods. And I think what we're seeing is the beginning of the effect of pulling out, because 10,000 homes is a lot. Of course, I say 10 million doesn't sound like a lot. But in a certain area where it was, it's significant, obviously. But about 1 in 20 homes sells every year now. It used to be 1 in 10. That means 500,000 homes that would have sold this year are no longer available. And so right away, we have the impact that's going to affect buyers of property. And then those buyers, those owners of those properties, many of them want to stay in Los Angeles, are looking for places. So you have less inventory and more buyers at the same time. I think turning around what had been a difficult market in Los Angeles. So overall, the LA market is at a 38 and probably rising, if anything, getting more back to a seller's market was like it was in the pre-pandemic period. Okay, so let's take a look at the overall real estate news. If you follow me, you know that I just think most of the news is really bad. And one of the worst in LA is our city named LA Times. And what I love about it is their news is behind a paywall, as if anybody's dumb enough to pay money to read the trash. But the good thing is they promote their own articles on X for free, so we can see the articles. And I can tell you what's inside it while I've been reading it, because it's the same stuff. So here's a case where LA Times has an article, Scams, Bidding Wars, and Predatory Landlords, which is what they want to push. They want to push everything is scary, everything is disrupted, everything is unsettled. One couple's quest for housing after the fires. So you might think that a national publication might have enough reporters to survey 100 or 50 or 200 or 300 people looking and get a survey and get some good data. No, one couple. And so they're not even going to pretend that this couple is representative. They're not going to even pretend that this one couple is telling where the market is. They're going to use that story as propaganda because they want to say there's scams, meaning you need the government to protect you. There's bidding wars, you need the state is proposing putting conditions on. And predatory landlords, bad landlords, because the press wants you to think that landlords are bad and renters are good. And so all this is really the LA Times flexing its propaganda muscle once again with a stupid story of one couple, because theoretically you might have 10,000 couples who lost their homes. Why is this one worthy of using and making conclusions about the market? The answer is, well, it's not, obviously. They don't even pretend to say that the people are representative of the whole market. They're just using it to push their propaganda. Now, independent news, LAist.com, great website, by the way. They actually have an actual piece of news. The LA top homelessness official signed a $2.1 million contract with her husband's employer. You know, now I don't know about you, but in my world, when somebody signs a $2.1 million contract, that's not like they buy $2 million worth of stuff and they make a profit of 5 or 10%. That's $2.1 million of revenue to the consulting agency. That's a lot of money. Like, that's a good day. If your job is getting contracts for your consulting company, that's a good day. And here we have the LA's top homeless official, and she signs of all the companies in the world to sign a contract with her husband's for $2.1 million. LA is just, you better laugh at this because it's just going to get worse. This is how these politicians look at the fire as another opportunity for more grift, more fraud and waste, and to line their pockets. And if you wonder where $28 billion went, well, here's 2.1 million of it, one bit at a time. And LAist, not LA Times, LAist is the one who has this article and puts it out there for free for us to notice this. The LA Times, if ever they covered it, be behind their paywall. Also, if you follow me at all, you'll notice that I constantly try to point out that Redfin and Zillow are two companies that, when they use the word disrupt the market, what they're really doing is destroying Americans' lives. These are companies that are corporations owned primarily by internationalists, globalists, corporations, not Americans, not individual people hold them accountable. And when they say disrupt, what they mean is to destroy the lives of people who are employed in the industry, because these companies are just, and they pay no federal income taxes. So you have citizens who have jobs and businesses being disrupted by these corporate entities that don't pay federal taxes. Well, here we have now the latest news. Redfin and Zillow work together, so the two monopolies form a partnership. The financial press covers it as Redfin cuts 450 jobs after entering into a rental content license with Zillow. What this says is Redfin's not going to compete with Zillow. Instead, they'll just pay the money. And as a result, they get to lay off 450 people who lose their jobs, who are no longer going to pay taxes. Those 450 people are customers of somebody. They get their hair cut, they get their nails done, they buy groceries, and they're now out of jobs. So, you know, I'm all for companies being efficient and productive. I'm not for monopolies destroying people's lives by flexing their power. And that's what Redfin and Zillow are doing. Zillow is forcing Redfin out of business, basically of the competing business, and saying to Redfin, but we'll sell you our data and you can use it to advertise. And since you'll pay any federal income taxes, you'll have a good profit margin on it. Just get rid of 450 people who do pay taxes. That's really what's happening here. So, of course, that's not how it's covered in the press that you would normally see, what I would call the corporate press or the news press. What they're going to do is you'll see here Yahoo, which is part of the kind of the whole, oops, I lost my spot there. Where's that at? Oh, I guess I was on hold too long. Here we go. The corporate press plays it as Zillow Redfin partner, not that Zillow beat Redfin out of the business. Zillow Redfin partner to make an apartment hunting easier. Oh, is that great? It's easier, meaning, think about this for a second. Instead of Zillow having their work with listings and then Redfin having their work with listings, and as an apartment hunter, you can look at both. Now it's easier. You just have to look at one because Monopoly Zillow put Redfin, their competitor, out of business. Isn't that great? It's easier. You don't have choices anymore. You easily can pick one. And it gives listings more exposure. The article doesn't tell you how it gives more exposure because the same listing is on Zillow and Redfin. I guess that one listing has more exposure. But Redfin used to have listings that Zillow didn't and vice versa, and those aren't going to get more exposure, they're going to get less. So the whole thing is stupid, but what happens is Zillow and Redfin put out this, and then their little trained seals like Yahoo Finance and all the other press run this as news. Oh, it's great. They're partnering. They're making house hunting easier by eliminating competition, and they'll mention destroying the lives of 450 people who are put out of business because Zillow is flexing its monopolistic muscle and putting Redfin out of a competing business. So too bad for those people, I guess. I mean, look, I'm not a big fan of Redfin employees in particular either, but I would say that Not good. Here's another article. I thought this was fascinating. Again, the LAS, great source if you're not checking it out. So there's an organization, LAHASA, the LA Homeless Something Association. It's an agency of the Los Angeles city government, and they're responsible for homelessness and helping tenants. And so they're part of the $28 billion we spend on the homeless problem, trying to solve it. I was fascinated to find out that the way we count the homeless population, which of course the city says there's less of them now, is 8,000 volunteers, meaning we spend $28 billion and we count the number of homeless and we say there's less than there used to be, but we don't even have, with all the staff in the city of Los Angeles, and all the staff in County Los Angeles, and all the staff in the state of California, and $28 billion being spent, we're not even paying people to make those counts. We have volunteers. And who volunteers to do this? Like, why, of all things in the world, why would you volunteer to go into the worst parts of the city, a lot of criminals, a lot of drugs, a lot of abuse, and count homeless, and you're going to do that? And the answer is, it's because this is a political organizing activity. The last thing the city wants is an accurate count. They don't care about that one way or the other. They're going to put whatever number they want. They'll make them look good. And then they get volunteers that enter into their political organizations that they later can either subsidize or pay or use for other purposes. So again, shocking to find out for all the money that we're spending to combat homelessness, and we don't have enough money to pay employees to count the homeless, we have to have volunteers, and we're falling short of hiring those. Speaking of bad governance, I think I may have covered this a little bit last week, but just to go a little deeper on it, City Mayor Karen Bass, one of the dumbest people ever to run a major city, she won't say why she hired Haggerty Consulting behind closed doors, meaning rather than have a bid to hire a consultant to help advise the city on rebuilding, she hires, and these people have a very checkered past, she hired it without putting out to bid. She just on her own made the decision, this is who she wants to hire, and won't say why. So think about that. Here you are in the city, you think you elected her, and then she's hiring somebody, won't tell you why she's paying these people money. The city has, 50,000 or more employees, and we don't have employees on staff to respond to the fires and rebuilding. We need to hire more people. We have less houses now. We have less remodeling going on. You would think with all the activity in the city, we'd have people and put together a team of people to work on this. And the answer is no. Problems are always, for bureaucrats, opportunities for more hiring and more power. And so here's Karen Bass, and she's spraying the money amongst her political operatives. And of course, in the city of Los Angeles, that means we're going to waste money and get people who we don't know who they are or how they ever get there. So what is the city doing to help us, help you? I say help us. My house didn't burn down, but as a business person, I have 10,000 residents who lost, and those were customers in many cases. I have friends and family and neighbors who lost homes. I have just the tragedy of living in a city like that. So I'm anxious to see what we're doing. So the city of LA, the number one priority was they hired attorneys. Of course, what does the city of Los Angeles need? We apparently need more attorneys. We don't have enough. And so they go and hire a law firm. Now, the LADWP has already 1,000-person legal staff on staff. Somehow that's not enough. City of LA has, I'm sure, equally large legal staff. That's not enough. They now need to go out and hire a law firm, and they're paying apparently $2,000 per hour as the rate of the firm they're hiring to protect themselves from the lawsuits from the fire. So, if you don't have your house yet rebuilt, don't have your house yet cleared, don't worry, they'll get to you. They're just busy hiring attorneys. So there you go. That's your city of Los Angeles. That's where they've taken bold action. They've moved right away. If you remember a couple weeks ago, they were challenged to start clearing sites in 7 days. It's been 2 weeks and that hasn't been done. It's going to be 6 months apparently before we get the sites cleaned. But what we are going to have is we're going to have plenty of attorneys to protect the politicians. Also, what's the city of Los Angeles doing? Well, to really stick it to you, they're very worried about tenants' rights. There was a bill that came up on Friday. And what this does is it protects tenants in the case of the fires. Shout out to good friend Shiva Bhaskar, who I've interviewed on my YouTube channel, and shout out to the Apartment Owner Association. who also called this to attention. But what the city is doing is basically preparing to excuse tenants who say they couldn't make their payments because of the fires, either because the fire burned down. Well, you don't have to pay rent if the house is burned down and you're out of the property. But you can say that you can't be there because of smoke inhalation, or it's inconvenient, or you lost your job because of the fires. Also, the city is considering prohibiting landlords from kicking out tenants who bring in more than the approved number of people into a unit, because those people are victims of the fire. So if you have a 2-bedroom apartment that's designed for no more than 4 people, you have sewage issues, water issues, trash issues. Basically, the city is going to not allow a landlord to kick somebody out who might bring in an extra 2, 4, 6, 8 people. And there's health issues, and there's all kinds of reasons why you might not want to allow that. But the truth is, the city is first, I said, hiring attorneys. Now they're protecting tenants and doing nothing really for landlords. They're not doing anything to ease usage or ease the burdens of landlords to turn properties over or encourage people to put property on the market as rentals. The opposite. They're scaring people, and I'm a professional realtor, and I tell people all the time, you really need to rethink if we're going to become a tenant or a landlord. I'm sorry, if you're ever going to be a landlord, you have to really think about, why would you be in that business? The city literally, I believe, wants to take all the property in the city and just give it to tenants. And by doing so, they will ensure their political power forever. I mean, we literally have socialists protesting the street for illegal immigration. We have a city that protects illegal immigrants who are protesting, saying they're socialists. So we basically have a socialist city. We know Mayor Bass is a communist. She went to Cuba numerous times, and she's proclaimed that. It's not newsworthy to talk about that. And so what we have is a city that's really looking to take property from landlords and give it to tenants one little rule at a time. And as a real estate professional, I just see how landlords are just being beaten up constantly through COVID. And now we're a few years later, and the fires are going to be the next excuse given to tenants not to pay rent and to bring people in and charge them rent to live in their units. It's just going to be a continued mess. So there's your city. We don't yet have any lots being cleared, but we have attorneys and we have tenant rights being reviewed. How do you feel about that? I know I'm frustrated. I know I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. Love to get your comments, thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe, put a comment in the comment box. I'm at Bill Gross Probate on social media. Call, text, or email me. As always, make today your best day ever.